Loathing Darkness embodied. Doryu, leader of the Doryu Ghost Attack Squad, a major faction within Rave Master, and a good example of a character who can have a lot of traits that if you kind of just read the basis of how he conducts himself, you'd think he's kind of bland when he talks about just destroying light, bringing in eternal darkness, and his sufferings and pains. But he was done in a way that it was really interesting to his character of somebody who, even though he was born a creature of the night, he really wanted to coexist with all creatures in the world, and he looked forward to the potential of bringing species together and having like a utopia of peace and camaraderie, only to be destroyed and to kind of open his eyes to cruel, real kind of positions in the world and stakes and what exactly was up when these were all kind of rattled and how easy they could be toppled over. Doryu is a very impressive character, somebody who was completely dominating pretty much everybody that went up against him for a good while in Rave Master up until his final fight when it was, he went up against the rival music crushed him, went up against the main character, how crushed him, and it wasn't until pretty much all of the main cast against him that he was able to get into a fallen spot. So first off, let's kind of talk about his character and his abilities. Let's move Dory over here and go over his stats. All right, so he's pretty solid when it comes to his stats. He's got the same decent durability in that mountain level area, thanks to his weighted darkness spell, which really boosted a lot of what people thought he was capable of. And it's just really easy to kind of lay out that area of him. But when it comes to more of his hacks, he's got a lot of variety. Gravity manipulation, which he can use for both speed, movement increase, deflecting attacks, slowing his opponents down. He can actually kind of weird range teleport somebody, which by like centering them all into one point of gravity and then kind of dragging up somewhere. But it can be taken care of if you know about it beforehand, and as well as his resistance to darkness magic, but his weakness to light magic. Kind of classic in that style. He's very heavy dark magic centered, so dark magic isn't going to do much to him. Practically none, whereas light magic is going to do extra damage to him than say fire or water. And when it comes to notable traits, I thought about kind of what exactly would be the best thing. And when it come down to it, the fact that he's stronger as night approaches. So, pretty interesting part of him. Now, he's got kind of pretty basic stuff when it comes to his weapons. He's more of a spellcaster in a lot of areas, but he does have two swords that when he cuts somebody with it, the wound will get worse as night approaches, and it makes it harder to heal. Kind of goes against the healing ability that anyone kind of puts at him. Not 100%, but definitely heavy on it, and slowing any recovery down. And when I was talking about like his large power up, but it really kind of came heavily from his weighted darkness, which is a blast power up to 400 megatons of power. I think it was the SAR bomb, the strongest nuclear warhead, is I think 50. I'd have to look it up, but 400, well beyond what humans have shown capable of in real life. And you can kind of just look at that, see what was going on within the arc itself to like see how heavy that attack was. And it wasn't just that he was able to do this and that was impressive. This was a not too big attack to him that he did in base that was deflected, came back, hit him, and it did practically no damage. Really, really impressive when it came to that. Display of his manipulation of gravity when Haru tried to hit him with a sword, just stopping a couple inches above his face and then repelling him so he couldn't get into it. He's got other larger scale attacks like his Nightmare Spread, which is kind of just this large magical surge, one that was able to almost take down a lot of the members if it wasn't for somebody on their team who could kind of switch alignments that I was talking about, like alignment, so he can't really hurt people that have dark magic and kind of darkness centered, as well as they can't hurt him. It's just kind of the way that abilities in the Rave Master series are. You have an opposite you're super effective against, but you have stuff that you pretty much are either resistant to and stuff you are just mostly immune to. He's also can make fakes with his abilities. He can pretty much make it so you'd slash what would essentially be a shadow, but is just kind of, I guess, an after image would be the best way to describe it. And when it kind of gets time for the night, he can usher in, pulling in all of the, the energy gets from the pitch dark skies of the night, becoming this empowered version of his true form, which is this like 6.5 foot tall, long-eared, terrifyingly clawed demon lord that was able to pretty much casually put out anything that he had before, like any something like his Weighted Darkness Nightmare spread. Those were pretty much child's play to him at that point, as well as being much faster, physically stronger, far more durable. And it kind of increased some of his other abilities as well, having for some reason something called an Evil Blizzard, which is like a darkness lightning magic, which I don't even. I mean, I'm not going to question that naming scheme, but whatever. And then his largest attack, Schwartz End, which is this very heavy energy drain type magic that was, as you can see, actually going back looking back at the floating city that he had, this giant structure that when he dropped his Schwartz End, that it was like spread all the way to the edges, was cracking it and just like tearing apart the place. And not only that, it was like shifting it down, pushing it off its flotation ability. It really just showing a very heavy display of power, while that wasn't even its main thing. Its main thing was like life draining things. So when you think about Doryu, it's definitely a easy to understand move set with a couple little variables in there that you might need to pay a little attention to because they're a little bit tricky, but definitely a fun character that had a dominating presence, a really well written story, and just a very fun villain to watch, just based off of the sheer extent that he was able to display as is just himself. That's going to be it for this one. Like and comment, favorite, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, these Clash profiles. And hopefully I can get you to subscribe to the channel, like I said, and I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And check out my other videos. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening. Bye.